I can't ever catch a break. Sometime in February, I mentioned I would be working on a Nintendo 64 video. Well, this technically isn't it. I was starting to work on it, but my N64 did not want to work. The big issue is that the system seemingly reset itself. I was trying to play it and it just reset. I had a few different ideas as to why this would happen, and it ultimately justified making a separate video instead of incorporating it into the video that it was supposed to be made in. So join me on my quest to save my Nintendo 64 from malfunctioning.
Huh? Oh.
Like I mentioned, the problem is the system keeps spontaneously resetting itself. I didn't know why at the time, but I had a couple of theories as to what could be causing the problem. Before I get into said theories, I should provide some background context. A couple of years ago, lightning struck right next to my house and caused serious electrical damage. The house wasn't grounded properly and damaged the circuits in part of the house that I do my work in. It fried my old desktop, bricked my first Xbox, shorted out my old capture card, and burned out the drive motor in my old PS2. That's all the damage I was certain about. This brings me to my first theory. The lightning strike damaged the N64's power supply. I don't remember what else I had plugged into the power strips that got affected, but the N64 could have been one of them. But now that I think about it, I might have remembered myself having the N64 already unplugged. When I had it turned on recently, it looked like it was receiving consistent power draw as the power light wasn't flickering. The other theory I have is that the reset button is in bad shape. When I pressed the reset button, it felt sticky and I had to pull it back into place. To test that it was an issue with the reset button, I loaded up Star Fox 64. That game has an animation for whenever you hit the reset button, so I figured it would be a perfect test to get to the root of the problem. But after letting the intro loop for about 5 minutes, the console didn't reset itself once. My testing wasn't the most scientific, nor did it yield conclusive results. However, I strongly believe that the reset button is the cause of our problem. Again, it felt like it was getting stuck in place. So the only logical step forward is to unscrew the shell and clean the reset button area. However, this presented yet another issue. Nintendo and their damn proprietary screws. These, you see these are called game bit screws, and it seems they are only used on the Nintendo 64 for the case and the cartridges. I mean, I have a screwdriver kit somewhere, let me go get that. This here is the screwdriver set I use for fixing a lot of things. It's got Tri-Wing in there for GameCube, if you can see it. You can't really see it. But it did not have Game Bit for N64. That means I had to trek online for dedicated screwdrivers just to open up the console. Even then, there was no guarantee that the sticky reset button was actually the problem. But after looking online for a replacement N64 power supply, you know, just in case, I determined it's going to be cheaper to try fixing the reset button first. And if that didn't solve the problem, then maybe I'll just return the screwdrivers. I also bought a new AV capture card to try and get footage from real hardware on a budget. I had bad luck with these in the past, but maybe it'll be different this time? With the Game Bit screwdriver I got, I was successfully able to open up the console. Once I got inside... Oh. Yeah, I think it's safe to say this thing hasn't been opened since at least 1996. Ugh. Time to bust out the dust rag and the compressed air for this job. It was a good thing I was wearing a mask for this because there was so much dust. If you give a shit like I do, see if you can open your old consoles for a dust-off. This crap accumulates over time. Once all the dust was cleared, I took out the reset button and the power switch. The reset button was our suspect, but I thought I'd also clean the power switch as well. I considered cleaning the top shell off, but I didn't feel like it. I just wanted to get this thing back up and running ASAP. I gave the two pieces a quick soak in soap and water. Ideally, I would have used isopropyl alcohol since it's safe on electronics, but I had none on hand. Now that I think about it, using IPA would have been superfluous, since I only cleaned shell parts and nothing inside the N64 itself. I made sure to let those dry a good amount of time so as not to risk moisture getting inside the console. Remember, water and electronics do not mix. As it turns out, I gave those parts my sweet, sweet time to dry. The AV card I got, yeah, it didn't work. I'm 0 for 2 with these things, and I'm gonna go bankrupt trying to get something that does work. I can't spend $300 on these kinds of solutions right now. For trying to get capture from real hardware, I'm running out of options since my old AverMedia card died. Maybe I'll find a suitable replacement, but I didn't feel like talking about this any further in the video, because I'm still salty about wasting my money on these damn cards. Don't buy these, they'll let you down. After the parts dried, I put them back in and reassembled the console. I did a quick test, and the reset button felt much less sticky and more springy. That was a good sign. I then proceeded to play a full-length game of NBA Showtime and didn't encounter any hitches. I'm sure it's not the most scientific way of making sure the N64 works, but I'm calling it and saying it works. Mission complete. As for capturing video for the real N64 video I wanted to do, I'll be doing 2 things. I'll point my phone at my TV using a tripod and this camera mount from a selfie stick, and I'll also record footage in an emulator. I have to make do with what I've got, and while it's not the most professional way to record things, it'll work. Plus, I've still got my micro SD card from last year's Chicago trip. I don't have to worry about running out of space right now. This was a somewhat irritating process, what with the N64 malfunctioning, not having screwdrivers to work with, and cheap capture cards that just did not work. Seriously, I spent an hour troubleshooting that thing, and I just didn't have the patience to get it to work. Even if it did work, it probably would have had a short lifespan anyway. But I was able to accomplish my main objective, and now the N64 is running like a champ again. Now that my quest to save the system is over, it'll be ready for capturing gameplay footage for the video I had intended to do. The bad news is now that video is getting pushed back to March, but better late than never, right? Check back in March for my video about the N64 and how it was one of the game consoles I grew up with. If you have any advice on fixing an N64 that I somehow screwed up on, or can recommend me to a good capture card for old systems on a budget, please let me know in the comments. I also have a Patreon now, so if you enjoy what you're seeing, you can support me and my work for about the price of a cup of coffee. I'm guessing that's how much a coffee cup costs, because I don't drink coffee. Oh well. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you when the N64 video is complete. This is Squiddy the Kid, signing off.